Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Trader Merlin Show. It is your Monday edition. Hope you had a great weekend out there and enjoyed what was arguably the best baseball game I've ever seen in my life. Even though I despise the Dodgers and I was praying that they would lose, the Dodgers won, put up a heck of a fight, and honestly, it was a phenomenal game. So congrats to the Dodgers. Blue Jays, I hope you can pull it off next year, man. You guys, it was so good, so close. That game had everything you could possibly want. Oh, is my volume very low? Thank you, Big Ed. Let me go and fix that. Sometimes my audio resets and I restart my computers, and I did restart the computer. Yeah, there you go. Master, my microphone level should be pretty good. One sec. I want to make sure this is all dialed in for you guys. Oh, yeah, way low. There we go. Thanks, Big Ed. That should be a lot better now. Should be popping. There we go. Okay. So as some of you, to your dismay, you saw the headline I posted for today's show, trouble ahead for crypto. Oh, boy. Yeah, not good. Not good. There's a lot of things happening in the industry that are just starting to cast a little bit more of a negative shadow. And, I've talked for the last few years, or at least a couple years, about how this 4-year cycle has never failed. And I still don't believe that this is going to be a full-on market crash like typically happens every 4-year cycle. But there are some pieces lining up right now which does not look very good. So let me start that off with the graphic here for troubles ahead for crypto. And then, it really boils down to just issues that are things happening. Individually, I don't think it's a big deal. But collectively, with all the other problems, I think it could certainly be a bigger problem. So let me walk you through the first piece. What are some of the issues that are facing it? Well, number one, which I didn't put on this list, is the fact that now most people are aware of this 4-year cycle. And in my opinion, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where a lot of people, including myself, I'm not selling right now, but I was of the opinion that I'm just going to liquidate my portfolio in November. I think there's a lot of people out there that are of that same mindset, and they may continue to sell off here and push prices lower because, according to them and according to the markets, we've never had a failed 4-year cycle. It always sells off 70 to 85% in the first year, and that first year is starting right now, right in November. So any point between now and maybe end of the year. So that's number one. Number two, which are out of order here, is a miner exodus. Okay, so let's take a step back and just look at basic fundamental business operations. If you start a business that does one specific thing, but you could theoretically be doing multiple things, what are you going to do? Well, obviously you're going to focus on what's going to make you the most money. And for a long time, that was mining Bitcoin. So these miners like Hut 8, Riot, Galaxy, Iren, they were going out there and saying, well, our current business isn't really working. Let's jump into crypto mining. We'll mine Bitcoin. So you jump in that arena, you buy all the equipment, you got tons of processing, you got computational power, you've got all the energy you could possibly imagine that you need to run all those miners. And that takes time to set up that type of infrastructure, which has value. As time goes on, you realize that Bitcoin went through a halving. A halving is where the reward for miners gets cut in half. And when that happened, these miners, instead of making 6.25 Bitcoin every time they solved a block, were now making 3.125. So their rewards got cut in half. So the profit margin shrank significantly. But there still wasn't a viable alternative for these miners to go to get a greater reward. And now what's happening is you're starting to see these mining companies being pursued by AI firms. So for example, you just had Microsoft, I think it was a $9.6 billion deal with Iren, which is a Bitcoin miner. The margins have gotten so low on mining Bitcoin that they're looking for alternatives. And now Microsoft is saying, hey, we'll buy your infrastructure. We'll get into your electrical systems you have connected, all the computational power, and we'll use that for our AI. And so Iren's looking at it going, well, I got to make better money doing AI stuff now than I did Bitcoin. So we're seeing an exodus. I wouldn't say it's like a collapse type exodus, but it's definitely starting to see things slow down. Now let me bring up Bitcoin's hash rate for you just so you can see what that looks like. I'll bring it up here. And when I look at hash rate, what hash rate means is the amount of computational power in the Bitcoin network. As you can see on your screen, it's not that dramatic. It's really not dramatic at all, but we're starting to see that thing drift a little bit lower going forward. And I think a lot of these firms, including Riot, which has also made statements that they are now looking to do more with AI because there's just more money there. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. More of them are doing data mining for AI projects, and that isn't really good if you're long on Bitcoin. I'm going to try to see if I can go back here. Sometimes they'll let me go further back. This one will not let me go further back. There was a period of time where China, let's go back 3 years. You can see back here in 2024, the hash rate dropped significantly. And so did the price of Bitcoin, right? It is tied. So if we see more and more miners leave the equation, more hashing power disappear, then we start to see prices of Bitcoin drop significantly. And that's something that I'm concerned with, because as more and more miners are just trying to make money, they may move more towards the AI side of things. And we may see more OpenAI deals, etc. So that's the second piece. First one is the 4-year cycle. And let me actually change my graphic here, because I didn't put in the 4-year cycle, which I should. We'll just go 4-year cycle. Okay. So now we can go and show you all of them in order. Boom. Minor updates as we go. So miner excess was number 2. Number 3 is, again, AI opportunities, which I think is going to become much more of a topic. And we'll talk about OpenAI here in just a minute, which has been going just wild with all the stuff that they're doing. Just into chat, go ahead and type in. Don't look it up, Oliver. I know Oliver likes to look things up. Big Ollie. For those of you that are just lurking out there, how much do you think that, how much value worth of deals do you think that OpenAI has made since the beginning of the year? Like, just kind of just in your mind, like how many deals have they done since the beginning of the year, since January 25th? Announcements that they're doing these different deals, right? To me, this is just wild when you look at how much OpenAI is extending themselves. Steven says 50 billion. 50 billion was, I mean, they announced that today with, was it Amazon? I think OpenAI announced a $38 billion deal today alone with Amazon. Big Eb is more on it. It's over $1 trillion. They say between $1 trillion and $1.4 trillion worth of deals. They're not even public. They don't even have a valuation. Now, they're looking to go public at $1 trillion, but what's weird here, and again, this is what makes me nervous about this whole AI bubble, which feels like it's really inflating, is OpenAI is making all of these deals and they're not making money. They're making over $1 trillion worth of deals. Now, they're completely setting up themselves for the future, right? So, in my opinion, when we'll talk about OpenAI here in just a second, OpenAI is either they're going all in, and it's either going to work or they're going to flame out like the sun. And I don't know which way that one's going to go. We'll see as time goes on. But when you see some of these deals, your jaws are going to just hit the floor. So AI opportunities, because that's the giant draw right now, okay? Now, what's going to happen? As these AI deals, that's where the money's at, right? I don't think anybody here is going to refute that the biggest opportunity in all the financial markets right now is AI, right? And that train has left the station. It's ripping to the upside. Now, like we saw with the dot-com bubble, it was the same thing. That's where you wanted to be. That's where the money was to be made. But at a certain point, the money was already in all those companies, no room left to the upside, and we saw a tremendous collapse in value of the dot-com. And I do think you'll see something similar to AI. Now, when that happens, these mining companies will simply go, well, there's more opportunity in crypto, and they'll jump back into crypto. I don't know when that's going to be or how long that will take, but it seems to me that if you look at parallels between the dot-com bubble and this AI situation that's building, not quite bubbled yet, I see a lot of similarities. So that was your AI opportunities where the money is at. Then you had what happened today, which I've been saying this for quite some time. Hacks. Balancer, which is a very large DeFi exchange, got hacked recently, just the last couple days. If you take my crypto program, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of... Let me take that back. I'm a huge fan of DeFi. I love what it can do. The problem with DeFi is security and safety. These DeFi exchanges, decentralized finance, for those who don't know what DeFi stands for, are typically pieces of code that run autonomously and don't have to have a central intermediary to facilitate transactions. It's all done digitally. It's all done with smart contracts. And in my opinion, if you can write something with a smart contract with a piece of code, then there is a high probability that someone is going to hack that code and get in there. And that's what's been happening lately. So when we look at the price of Ethereum, let me bring up your ETH chart for you. ETH is down significantly today, and so is a lot of crypto. I mean, crypto is getting its teeth kicked in this afternoon. Why? Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what's going on with Ethereum. And there's your chart ETH looking really bad right now. I mean, real bad. And a lot of the other stuff in DeFi taking it much worse. Look at some of these projects here. You've got Engine. Well, that's a DeFi protocol, down 18%. You've got, Aptos is layer 1. You got anything, Arbitrum and Optimism. These are layer 2s on Ethereum getting crushed down 15, 16%. LivePeer, which is decentralized streaming, files, decentralized data storage. I mean, just getting smoked today. And that may just be the beginning of more downside movement. And I think what could happen here is a filtering out of a lot of the garbage projects that aren't really doing much and money flowing into the ones that really are doing something. So for those of you who are long-term bullish, as I am, on projects like, let's say, Ethereum, you could be finding yourself at a pretty good buying opportunity here on Ethereum as we come down to this demand zone right around 3,500. We're pretty darn close to that one right now. So hacks is a big one, and those are growing. We're seeing more and more hacks. Of course, what I don't have on here is scams and fraud, which probably should be number one. And I put on here, finally, uncertain rules. And I think this goes back to what Steve says here. He goes, in my opinion, once the government gets involved in crypto, it lost a lot of luster, and government control is never good. Right, and we have right now the Clarity Act, which is working its way through the Senate. There's talk from the politicians that I follow that we'll have that done by the end of the year. I don't believe that'll happen. I think it's actually be next year, probably in January or February when we get the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act will spell out with much more detail what's a security, what's not a security, all the different things you can and cannot do with cryptocurrency. What are the rules, right? What's the punishment? And I think once that's done, then we'll see a filtering out. A lot of the garbage will probably disappear. A lot of the good projects will thrive as money flows into those ones. Some projects may get delisted. Others, nothing will apparently change. So we don't know which way that's going to go. And I generally agree with you. Well, the Clarity Act will be clear, hopefully, once it's released, Stephen. It's not out there yet. You can go check out the preliminary stuff, but I haven't wasted my time because it's thousands of pages of stuff that is just legalese. And just like the budget, they're basically looking at trying to slide things into that Clarity Act that benefits their particular party or their particular agenda on both sides of the aisle. So I'm not super excited about that like I was with the Genius Act. Liz says, can't imagine much being achieved by year end, any government project with the ongoing. I'm with you. That's why I think it'll be next year. But those uncertain rules make it difficult for people to want to accept payments or to buy into crypto or to just have confidence knowing that they can hold a specific cryptocurrency because of what those rules may entail. So it makes it very sticky and dangerous for people to get too heavy into crypto because of those specific rules. Now, if you look out at the big dog, which is Bitcoin, I got way too many graphics on here. Let me just get rid of some of this stuff so it doesn't look so bad. I'll take that moving average off of there, which I don't like. I'm going to leave it there for one reason. If you look at the moving average, you can see that for the past few months, we've done nothing but slightly go down, and now the acceleration is picking up to the downside. I think this is probably a 40 period, 50 period moving average. We're well below the 50 period. We're in this kind of broadening formation that we talked about. The expectation was that as we started a rally here in late October that we're going to rally back up towards those highs, and we did not rally back to the upside. So this is clearly not a good picture for Bitcoin. It leads me to believe that because of that 4-year cycle manifestation, the miner exodus, the miners moving to AI opportunities, the hacks on crypto, uncertain rules, and just the trend is your friend to the bend at the end leads me to believe you'll see more downside movement here for crypto. Now, how far down are we going to go? That I don't know. I don't think you're going to see a colossal crash. I've got a level here drawn from back on March 14th of this year. It says we will never hit this level again, and that's at $76,000. I don't know. I mean, I may be wrong, but I don't think we'll get that low, right? To get down to 76,000 off the peak we had just here on October 6th, you're looking at a decline of roughly, it's always giving me problems. You're looking at a decline of roughly 39%. And from current levels, that decline would be roughly another 30%. So it's not impossible. I don't think we'll get there. I think we could certainly trickle down to get into that sub 100,000 level, which I don't want to see, but that may be the opportunity. Now, once this, if this does happen, right? Well, be careful there, Luis, because I do think long-term Bitcoin's going to be fine. But remember, what's going to happen if we get below certain numbers is some of these crypto treasuries, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, they may be triggered. And as this starts to break lower, like if this breaks 100,000, you're going to see the leveraged shorts, those 100x leveraged shorts I've been talking about, they're going to pile in this thing aggressively. And once it breaks 100,000, I think you could easily see it, drop 10% in a day, easily, once those leveraged longs jump in. And they'll keep pushing it lower and lower and lower, but at some point they'll flip sides and push it back up. So I'm pretty nervous, and that's where I was going to go with this big Eb. He says MicroStrategy would be triggered somewhere about there. Yeah, the number I'm hearing for MicroStrategy is 68,000. And again, that is where I was going with that, Big Eb, is if MicroStrategy continues its descent, which has been on a pretty ugly sell-off, thank goodness I'm out at 315, it could trigger them to sell some of their Bitcoins. Let's go to MSTR here so we can bring up that chart for you. This chart is about as bad as it gets. I mean, the trend is your friend till the bend at the end. It looks ugly. It's just drifting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. We've got that 245 mark there, which I sold puts last week at 245. I did not sell puts today. I wanted to, but I'm just a little concerned that this thing could really start to pick up some momentum. And remember, if it does break down below these lows, and I'll put a line across the absolute low here from back in March, that's 231. Once it bounced off that several times, and I think once we get below that 231 level, I think that you'll see some real pain here for MicroStrategy. So I'm being a little bit cautious and not, playing MicroStrategy aggressive like I have in most of the year. Bitcoin can't sell off. I just bought 5K. Sorry, JD. MicroStrategy get back up to 325, the moving average. I may buy a long put. Well, if it gets back up there, the only way it's going to get back up there is if we see a rally in Bitcoin. And it does feel like, as I mentioned, because of these factors here, it's just going to continue to drift lower. There needs to be a catalyst, right? And I've pointed out many times that the Trump family is, I would argue, heavily invested in Bitcoin. So maybe we get some wild announcement from Trump to save the day on this one. It would not surprise me because, he, World Liberty Financial, DJT, his sons, all in crypto. It would lead me to believe that we're going to see a backstop put in by the president. But you never know. Stranger things have happened, and I know if I was President Trump and I had that much exposure to it, I would probably do something to try to bump up the price of Bitcoin. But Mikey says, my MicroStrategy cost base is $30.60. Phenomenal, but why didn't we get out when you started breaking these lows here at 355, right? Why didn't you get out when you started breaking these lows at below 300? You should have locked in some profit there. On that one. Lifram says he would never do that. Okay, I'll take the bet that he would. I would absolutely take, or just tweet out. All he has to do is tweet out something as benign as, Bitcoin's huge. China and I are looking at doing something with Bitcoin as a global thing. All you have to do is say that. Just say we're looking at it, and Bitcoin's going to absolutely scream. So, yeah, there we go. I'm pretty sure. Look, if Trump will issue a tweet for a meme coin that serves no purpose, no utility whatsoever, that made him a bunch of money, I'm sure he'll do something positive for Bitcoin. So we'll have to wait and see if that one comes to fruition. Yeah, exactly, Stephen. I mean, look, at this point, I'm out there going, come on, Trump, just say something. Just say, imagine what would happen if Trump issued a tweet. I don't know why when I read a tweet from Trump, I have to do it in Trump's voice. We're seriously looking at considering it making Bitcoin legal tender here in America. All he'd have to do is say it. He just have no intention. But if he said we're going to make Bitcoin legal tender, that thing's going to double in value in a couple of days. Please, Trump, do it. Spike that thing. All right, sorry, I'm off my rocker here today. So those are kind of the big pieces that I see facing crypto, and it does have me a little bit concerned. Obviously, I've got a large, sizable crypto portfolio, but I'm not letting that. I'm not going to do anything there. And again, one of the main reasons I've mentioned before is the cost of a transaction. The cost for me to liquidate my portfolio of crypto is astronomically high, and I'm optimistic that over the next couple years, once we get the Clarity Act passed, that your local banks will now be able to custody cryptocurrency, and the cost per transaction will start to drop significantly. And ultimately, I'd like to get it where, hey, my crypto transaction, whether I trade $10 worth or $10 million, is going to be like a $20 transaction. Then it would be easy for me to liquidate. But right now, if I was to liquidate, let's say $1 million worth of Bitcoin, I'm looking at over a $40,000 transaction cost. Crazy. Ridiculous. What am I drinking today? H to the Izzo. I'm on a kick. So shout out to my friend Benjamin, Mr. Rogers. We're on a competition here to see who can lose the most body fat by late November. So I've been doing really bad with my cheat days and eating fried chicken and sodas and drinking all this weekend. Done. We're going back to the straight and narrow. Water and my meal prep, meal plans, good food, good exercise, get myself in shape. I'm getting that body fat under 10%. That's my goal. Keep in mind, I was at 26%, according to my DEXA scan, so we will see. So, Andy, just water, my friend. Water is so good. That's right, man. I figure, Big Ev's Halloween parties jacked my program. It'll do that too. And not just the drinking and the partying and all the food, right? But there's chocolate and sugar and candy everywhere. Ugh. And Liz says, and in addition, you have to pay capital gains. Absolutely. Yep. I think that there's no way around that. We're going to have to pay capital gains either way, even though Eric Trump said that he's going to try to remove capital gains on crypto. I don't think that will pass or get accepted. So I'm really just hoping that the transaction costs decline significantly and make it easier for me. Yeah, I know, Steve. There's no way I was 26% body fat. I was embarrassed when I first read it. I was like, what, me? I'm pretty slender. When I started going to F45, I was 18% according to theirs, and now I'm at 12%. So dropped 6% body fat, but yep. An Olympic athlete shape. I don't know if I would quite be there, Steven, but that's the goal. The goal is 10, and then now it's bulk up phase. Basically, I want my six-pack back. From a physical perspective, I want to get back to the point where I was in my 20s, and I'm pretty much there. Then I need to add some mass. So I look pretty slender now. We'll do a little gun comparison as we go, but we'll get this back up. Yeah, we're getting there. It's like when I started trading, I said, this is what I want to do. Here's how I'm going to accomplish it. So I set up plans, structure, process, mentors, coaching, all that stuff. I never really paid for mentors. I just kind of gravitated and hung out with people that were making money. But, I'm looking at personal health as far more important, and we should all be taking care of that. So I set up the plan, I set up the structure, got my coaches, and now we're rocking it. So, yeah. All right, let's go to the other part, which I think is very, very, very concerning, and that is OpenAI. As I mentioned earlier, they've got between $1 and $1.4 trillion in deals just this year alone. That is unbelievable. I'm shocked at that. So I wanted to make a little table here, and I know that some of you can't read this because you're listening to the podcast, so let me read it off to you, and I'll try to do this quick. Obviously, we have the $500 billion commitment, which is a joint venture, right, to build massive AI data centers across the United States, including 10 gigawatts of capacity. OpenAI contributes expertise and usage commitments. That's done with Oracle, SoftBank, and several others. That's $500 billion. March of this year, this is led by SoftBank, a $40 billion round of funding to help that out. You had CoreWeave. So they basically did a $15 or $16 billion deal with CoreWeave, so for AI data centers, with another expansion of $6.5 billion in October. May of this year, Oracle, $40 billion worth of NVIDIA chips via Oracle. So they're basically buying into Oracle so they can get access to their NVIDIA chips. In June, they did another deal with Oracle for cloud services for $30 billion. October, secondary equity round, $6.6 billion. That was a money raise, which valued OpenAI. Just keep in mind, that was October 2nd of this year. They valued OpenAI at $500 billion. Okay? That number is important because that was October 2nd, literally 32 days ago. Okay? All right, fine. So 32 days ago, they were valued at $500 billion. Well, then the deals really started flooding, right? In September 22nd, I don't know why that's out of sync here, they did a deal with NVIDIA. So NVIDIA invests up to $100 billion for data center build out, and OpenAI commits to 10 gigawatts of NVIDIA systems for AI training. So massive spending there. Then there was AMD, right? So this is a chip partnership. Basically what happened was OpenAI said, we are going to buy several generations worth of AMD chips. And this is where it gets really interesting because you can see here it says OpenAI to purchase 6 gigawatts of AMD chips, includes warrants for up to 10% stake in AMD. That's 160 million shares. So this is getting fishy now. So, okay, I go to AMD and say, I will commit to buy a massive amount of your chips, right, for the next several generations. And in exchange for us buying those chips, we want to get a 10% stake in your company. So what they're saying is, we know that us buying your company is going to raise your share price, so we want to get a bunch of your shares for that. Wow, that just seems like a loop, right? You know you're going to pump the price of somebody up, so you get ownership of that, then you jack their price up. It just seems fishy to me. Broadcom, that was 7 days later. They did a deal with Broadcom on October 13th. That was for $1.4 trillion worth of total commitments. $1.4 trillion worth of total commitments. That's a 10 gigawatt development plan for late 2026. In October 28th, Microsoft, $135 billion deal. That's a revaluation of a previous deal that was done. And $250 billion worth of Azure services. Basically, OpenAI saying, we will commit to using Microsoft. But if you look at this list, they're basically saying, we're committing to use NVIDIA, we're committing to using AMD, we're committing to using Broadcom, we're committing to using Microsoft. And down at the bottom, the one I think is really important happened today, Amazon Web Services. $38 billion worth of cloud computing that they bought into. It's a 7-year deal. And basically what's happening is OpenAI now has access to thousands of NVIDIA chips via Amazon Web Services. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is either going to be the Skynet, right? If you watch the Terminator, that is the biggest AI firm on the face of the planet. They're already putting their tentacles into every major business. So should one business fail, they've got backup after backup after backup. It's a brilliant decision in my mind, to have that all kind of linked together. The issue is, the number I saw is that they're going to do an IPO for over $1 trillion. Well, just 32 days ago, they were a $500 billion valuation. Now they're $1 trillion and they haven't turned a profit. They're not making any money. This scares me. It scares me because you've got one name, OpenAI, is massively propping. Why is our market rallying? It's rallying because of NVIDIA and AMD and Broadcom and Microsoft and Amazon. All companies that NVIDIA is guaranteeing massive deals with, but they have no money. Does this seem weird to anybody other than me, or am I just off my rocker, that you got a company that's not making money saying that they're going to invest over $1 trillion in all these companies, which has jacked their valuations astronomically because of all this potential new revenue, but they don't have any money? Wild to me. Wild to me. Now, if we go look at the Magnificent Seven out here, let's just run through our bottom and work our way from bottom to top from a gains perspective. And I know Oliver is like going to say, Merlin, you're the doom and gloom guy. I'm not, my friend. I'm not. I'm a realist. And I think even Oliver, you would look at this and go, man, that doesn't seem right. You're promising all this. You're promising all. I mean, this isn't like $1 million. This isn't like $1 billion. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars worth of all this stuff. That's true, Liz. How do we know that OpenAI isn't profitable? If from all the things I've been reading online, they're a private company. From the things I've been reading, they're not turning a profit because they're spending so much money trying to build up their infrastructure. Jimmy, great question. Where is Grok or Genesis? Good question. I don't know. AI seems to be like the most public figure in this space. And, look at Meta, right? Meta's got deals with OpenAI as well. That's just not on this one because it was prior to 2025. Meta, after their earnings, obviously got smoked, and a nice little rally up today, at least in the after-hour session, but not looking so great. Apple, surprisingly, one of the few that's not doing anything with OpenAI quite yet. Maybe that'll change here soon. That was down 0.49% today, but still beautiful trend. And again, I'm in that camp that Apple is due for a pullback. I said it's going to snap back to this moving average. It certainly should. Microsoft, down 0.15% today. Beautiful double top. Right now, we're right back down in the moving average. If we don't get a bounce here, Microsoft's going lower. And again, they were given like pretty much $385 billion commitment from OpenAI. Now, question I have is, does that reflect in their earnings? Are people anticipating that's already priced in here or no? Google also doing stuff which is not on the screen. Not on the screen. This is another one that I mentioned, super extended above its moving average. I mean, these valuations should not be like this, guys. This is an aberration. This is not normal. When I had Toby Wade from DeepVest on the program, I should have asked him about this because he's a statistics guy. He teaches statistics at all these different companies, or he teaches statistics at a college. When you have an outlier to this extent from any historical norm, you've got to look at a mean reversion. You got to look at things come bouncing back down. This type of extension will not happen for a long period of time before. I'd love Google too, Steve. I'd love it. I'm not saying Google's done. Please don't take this as Google's a garbage company. Google's fantastic. What I am saying is the elasticity of price the trajectory and angle and slope of this line from those lows we saw here on October 13th to where we were on their earnings call, October 30th, parabolic move, most likely going to have a retracement back down to the moving average at some point in time. It will, if it comes back down to this blue line here, it's still in an uptrend, right? It hasn't made a new pivot low, so it's still be an uptrend, but it needs a pause. And that is what happens normally with price in a trend. Keep going up. NVIDIA, the big recipient of almost everyone's tech dollars because they're the ones selling the chips that make the wheel go round. Well, you've got a 2.17% gain today. It was up to 206.88. Wowzers. Rockabilly. But notice it's struggling. We've got two long topping tails the last couple days here on Amazon, on NVIDIA. Let me get rid of the moving average here. You got two long topping tails. That is a sign of weakness. It means it's tried to rally aggressively and it could not seem to get its wheels underneath it. But careful, you have earnings coming up in a couple weeks. That's Wednesday, November 19th, after market closes. Their earnings, so just put that on your book so you don't get caught off guard with that one. Tesla. All right, Tesla, ripping. It was a nice day today, 2.59% gain up to $468. Surprisingly, you don't see any deals. I guess not so surprisingly, as Liz would say. Tesla certainly won't be doing a deal with OpenAI. No, not. Absolutely not. And when I would be, and this is where I think the chess game is being played. Because you have OpenAI. Did I use that graphic? Yeah, I even used this today. This is I feel like you have AI, Elon Musk, and Sam Altman, even though these aren't the pictures. I have no idea why the dog is on the table and so small. But I wanted something that showed kind of the chess game being played because it seems like right now OpenAI is making all these grandiose moves, like huge moves. And I don't hear Tesla about doing anything with all of this. It would not surprise me down the road to see that Tesla has been doing things to prevent OpenAI from getting access to different services, to different functions, but Tesla seems to be rather quiet, and of course, they got things to focus on right now. That was a cute little puppy on the table. All right, and lastly, Amazon. I'm about to make a statement which I can't believe that I'm going to make. I'm shocked that I'm going to make this statement. Okay, Amazon, big day, up 4%. All right, great day for Amazon. Of course, this is coming on the heels of a $38 billion deal from OpenAI to use Amazon Web Services. Okay, there you go. Now let's add on that moving average again. And if you look at how price has skyrocketed above this moving average, right? It's just ripping. Oh, I have to stare into the camera as I do this one. This is going to be punishment for me. I bought puts today directionally on Amazon. I cannot believe that I'm going counter trend on Amazon. And the main reason is I love Amazon. I love Amazon. I know, Big Gab. I can't believe I'm actually saying that I shorted Amazon. It's striking to me. But look at the picture. You have massive overextension. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm sorry. I know. The shock in the room. I love it. Andy, I love Amazon. I'm only shorting it because of what Les typed in the chat. Could that be a shooting star? If you look at this pattern right here, this is a shooting star. It closed in the very last portion of its, in the lower portion of its range, right? The lower third. Tomorrow will be the day to prove whether I'm right or wrong, but you've got this gap up on a $38 billion deal. You've got another monstrous gap because of their earnings. It feels like an exhaustion gap. You could add in volume here as well. You had that huge volume spike on Friday's session, high volume today. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We shall see. I don't know. I didn't buy long term on this bad boy, just so you know. Here is the puts I purchased. Amazon, I bought the 250 puts, expiring not this Friday, but next Friday. I collected 355. So that 355, a little over 1.25% for the week. Not too bad. That's what I get to keep. Or sorry, that's what I had to pay. Excuse me. So that I had to pay that 1.25%. But I think that if we start to see a breakdown below 250, 290, right? If that breaks down below 250, 290, sellers are going to come ripping into this thing. And I do think that tech is a little bit lofty in the tooth right now. If we go and look at the QQQs, for example, we are very extended above that moving average. And we've had a lot of great news lately, a lot of big headlines, a lot of acquisitions, a lot of money flowing into these companies, and that's what's caused the rally up. Unless those deals keep coming and flooding the market with more and more money, I just feel like it's going to slightly slow off. So I know I can't believe that I actually say I'm shorting Amazon because it's one of my favorite companies, absolutely one of my favorite companies. But I bought puts on it. Can't believe it. On Apple, I can't. I want to do Apple as well if you look at the chart of Apple, but yeah, I can't short Apple. Can't trade it. Do you know we're taxed for options the same as a short-term trade? Yep. Unless those options are on futures contracts, which would be a 1256. So, yeah, your options are going to be short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains, just like everything else. And Big Eb says November is usually the best month of the year. Just saying, well, September is usually the worst month, and it wasn't that bad. Wasn't that bad. What else you got? You're not going to give yourself much time for that. No, I'm not. I think it's actually going to happen over the next couple of days. I'm really, Liz, I'm really just playing the shooting star. I think you'll probably see it drop maybe down to the 245 level just by this Friday. And I'll let you know when I get out of that. I don't plan on holding that thing very long. But yeah, I was going to go out longer term, but I decided to just go for a few days. We shall see. I mean, worst case, lose a few grand on that trade, but I think it's worth the risk to me for my current situation. So there you go. I know, shocker. You got all kinds of different symbols in. Let me go. There were a couple questions. I want to make sure I get to these questions. Where were they? This is from Jeff. Jeff says, today I entered into a long position on Open, O-P-E-N. All right, Open Technologies. Does the ticker Open appear to be a bull flag on the daily time frame? Do time frames affect the success ratio of various formations? So typically the bigger the time frame, Jeff, the more reliable they are. Now, when I look at this, this is a long flag. There are some people who actually do build out like, Open Door Technologies. Yes, yep. There are some people that would say that this has gone on too long, that the flag itself is too long. And I guess it's a question of where you would draw the flag from. But let's look at this on a weekly time frame because I think it looks better on a weekly, where you can look at the overall impulse and corrective phases. So you go from that low right around June of this year to the peak, which is a 2,000% gain. I mean, I'll be honest, I'll be really wary trying to buy something after a 2,000% gain. It's only fallen off of its peak from where it is right now, 30%. But it's still up massively. I mean, you have colossal gains here. Even from that low of earlier this year, it's still at 1,400%. And I'm with Steven. I would say it almost feels like a short. I don't know if I would jump on this bad boy at all. But let's just say you wanted to treat this as a flag. And Steven, Ollie says the right thing. He says, where do you draw it? Because you've got 3 separate poles here. You got 1, 2, and then I would contend that your flag is really this third piece, and I think it's drifted down too far. So for me, I wouldn't look at this as a flag pattern. It's not a bullish flag pattern. It's just taken too long to come to fruition. And then you look at that picture here, what's it look like it's doing? It's making lower lows. It's making lower highs. Yes, you have a saving grace here that's bouncing off of its 50-period moving average, but I'm not that confident on this trade. It's one that I would probably pass up myself. And then one of the main reasons is how much it's moved up. I mean, just back in January, this thing is under $1, and now it's trading over $7. Yeah, I'd be a little too nervous on that one for me. That was one question. Naum, happy anniversary, Naum. He brought in this one. He says, have you seen the increase in Dash? Oh, man, this is a thorn on my side. Dash is a total thorn on my side. I don't even think I have it on my watch list anymore, so let me add it in here. Here's why Dash is a thorn on my side. I've bought a lot of Dash over the years, a lot, and I kept it over at Celsius, which of course Celsius went under, and all assets at that firm were now lost forever, and I don't have my Dash anymore. So here's what's going on with Dash, and this is killing me, guys, because I had a lot of Dash. I mean, I've been buying it since back here. Oh, let's put on the weekly. Oh, man, this is going to torture me. I'm going to be so angry when I see this. Long before 2019. When my average price was like $25 on this bad boy, and now it's trading at $109. So up 22% today. What's going on here? Well, there is this huge surge right now into privacy coins. Full disclosure, I'm out of all of my privacy coins. I dumped my Monero at $330. That was it. People are liking the concept of privacy coins because obviously you can hide your transactions. However, I just have to be a realist. If I'm the U.S. government and that Clarity Act goes through, I'm going to put something in that Clarity Act that says you cannot use privacy coins in the United States. We're okay with using a competing currency to the US dollar. We're okay with using Ethereum and Cardano and Bitcoin. That's fine because we can track everything. But if you're going to use Monero or Zcash or Dash, which has privacy features built in, then you can't use those in the US. And that just has me too nervous, because if that happens, they'll get kicked off the major exchanges and the price will plummet. But apparently I'm off my rocker, because Dash, here's Zcash. They've been going absolutely wild recently. Here's Monero, which has had a lot more volatility to it, but that little green line is where I'm out. So I'm out at 330. So yeah, I don't know exactly why Dash has gone so gangbusters. One of the reasons that I bought Dash early on is they actually had cards, and they were setting up payment networks where you could use Dash to actually buy goods and services at regular stores with their card. So that had me excited about it. That's why I bought it many, many years ago. But yeah, this is the nature of crypto. All of a sudden, something will surge. I would take Dash over Shiba Inu or Dogecoin any day of the week. Why? Because Dash has a team. Dash has a community of people out there working to build this project, to build services into it, to improve it, just like you would see with something like Cardano or Bitcoin, right? You have a team of developers trying to make it better. And I think it's one of the unsung great cryptos out there. But now it's getting its day in the sun, I guess. Phenomenal run over the past couple weeks. All right, let's see. Merlin, where do you think the Bitcoin money is moving to? That's a great question. I don't know. If you look at the .D chart here, this just tells you where money's moving out of. It's clearly moving out of altcoins today, right? Today you had a big surge up in money flowing into Bitcoin and out of alts. When you see this line moving up here, that means it's coming out of other cryptos and moving into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is seeing an influx of that capital, even though Bitcoin is down. But you look at the percentages, like Cake. The Cake token down 11% today. I mean, this thing was over $4 3 weeks ago in October, a month ago, and now it's trading at $2. We're down 50% in just a short period of time. Cronus as well. A lot of these are down massively in the past month, and that money is moving into Bitcoin. And even though I think there's the value of a lot of them are dropping overall, Bitcoin is still seeing an influx of money coming in. So yes, Steve says must be moving to cash positions. Yes, I think stable coins are probably starting to see more influx and more growth and money being moved into USDC or Tether or other stable coins out there as just kind of a let's hold and wait and see what happens with this. Go to cash if it goes down high on the curve. Yeah. Market timing, right? Troll thrill. OpenAI took $100 billion from NVIDIA and gave it to AMD in return for 10%. Yeah. Oh, yeah. As we were talking about earlier, Troll. If you look at just that list of different deals that OpenAI has done since the beginning of the year, it's a shell game of moving money around. Just taking money from one company, moving to another, and then promising money that they don't have to all sorts of other companies. To me, that is a spooky proposition that you're either going to be the most successful and genius AI company ever if you can pull it off, or you're going to go down in a ball of fire, and I don't know which way it's going to go. All right, so that's my crypto stuff for you. Let's move on to our top 10 here, and then I'll wrap things up. I'm going to have Larry Jacobson on the program on Thursday. I think he said Thursday. I didn't update the calendar yet, but it should be on Thursday. And then I'm going to have Scott McCormick coming up in a couple weeks as well, and we'll see who else I can get on the program for you. I'm trying to get some regulators on. I met some people from FINRA that I was hoping to get on the program, but they will not respond to me. Isn't that nice? Come on, FINRA. Do your due diligence. Make people aware. Big Eb says Altman goes to prison. If you listen to the latest Elon Musk Joe Rogan podcast, forget what you think about Joe Rogan. Some people think he's off his rocker or too far one way or the other, whatever. It doesn't make a difference to me. The interview was interesting because they started talking about Sam Altman, and there was a whistleblower at OpenAI who mysteriously ended up dead. And they said, he committed suicide, and they stopped the investigation. But there's so many questions. There's blood in multiple rooms. He ordered DoorDash just before he killed himself. It just doesn't seem right. And I guess Sam Altman was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson's kind of insinuated that Sam Altman killed the guy, and Sam Altman was like, "Are you saying that I killed him?" And that was his response. It just seems fishy. Now there's a lot of people thinking that Sam Altman hired someone to kill this kid. Who knows? Wild stuff. We are dealing with stuff that's out of the movies, right? We're dealing with technology and the future of information and technology. This is evolutionary technology. Yeah, a lot of people are probably going to die along the way. All right, back to our top 8 for the day. Anyway, we'll start with Bitcoin, which is your big loser on the day. Not looking so good. Listen, you mentioned that you'll be doing something with Larry at, yep. Will you be traveling to Bloomington? No, I think I'm going to do it. I'm doing it remote. I'd love to go there. I really would love to go out there, but to go out there, just do like a 1 hour session, not worth it. Sorry for the kids out in Indiana. It'll be fun to go do, though. I always like teaching with Larry in person. You know, when you're remote, it's just not quite the same. Okay, so we got Bitcoin. We already covered this one. You know, from a technical perspective, this does not look good at all. I'm not liking this at all. I got moving averages rolling over. I got it sitting near lows we haven't seen since July of this year. It's just, Steven says, is that a head and shoulders pattern? No. Not in my opinion, no. You know, I see where you're going with it. You could say this is the shoulder here from late August to late September. That's your left shoulder. There's the head. There's the right shoulder. I mean, you could... You know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder here when it comes to technical analysis on these patterns. But, you know, where do you draw that shoulder? Do you draw, or the neckline? Do you draw it from there? No, I don't think so. If you go for more points of contact, for me, it would be there. And if that, in fact, is the line that we're using, which would be that is your head and shoulders, then, you know, you're looking at a measuring object from the peak to that neckline, which would take us, if it, in fact, did break, which looks like it could here any moment, that would bring us all the way down to $87,000, if that's it. But I don't know. I don't really look at that as being a head and shoulders pattern. It's because of what happened here in July. It's just a big chunk there. But what is clear and evident is we're no longer making highs. It feels like we're making lower lows. You can put different moving averages on here, and yeah, it's just not looking good. Russell 2000 down 0.41% of the day. Again, nothing to worry about here. Nothing at all. All right, we're still fine. You're still bouncing off that 50-period moving average. Great trend going on. So even though it's down, who cares? It's fine. Crude oil. All right. So, you know, I anticipated crude oil selling off further from that yellow box I got drawn on your screen, that $62 mark. It sold off for a couple of days, but it's managed to gather a footing and starting to rally back up here. You can see that moving average line is still drifting lower, but my guess is, based off what I see here, that it's starting a turn, and we'll probably see it challenge that yellow box again. So I will stretch this bad boy out here. That yellow box on the screen goes from about $62 up to $63 on the continuous crude oil futures contract. S&P down 0.13%, but really nothing here to speak of. Let's get rid of some of these lines. I got way too much artwork on here that doesn't mean much. Get rid of it. I don't know. Technically, no big deal. It does seem like it's a little bit stretched out, right? It does feel like it should come down a little bit towards that moving average, but all in all, nothing here to be concerned with the S&P, in my opinion. Dollar index, which is fourth place, this one is a little more concerning, right? We did break those highs last week. Those highs from October 9th were broken. My guess is we're going to go all the way up to that 100 mark. Today, we hit an intraday high on the dollar index of 99.98 before selling off. So there you go. Got that rally. It looks to me like it should continue here for that dollar as more money is pouring into U.S. dollars. And who knows, maybe this is a stablecoin preparation or whatever reason. Did I hear you say that you bought a few puts on SPY last week? Yes, I did. I closed those out on Friday. They were Friday expirations, and as it started to turn, I jumped out of them. I made a little bit, but not as much as I would have if I closed them out on Thursday. But yeah, those are very short-term ones, which I normally don't do. I feel like I've been doing a bit more short-term stuff with options just because the percentage rate of returns can be so much better. Podium time. NASDAQ 100 was up 0.38% on the day. Still looking great. Looks just like the S&P, right? Really nothing to be too worried about here other than its extension in price. But so far, I feel fine with that NASDAQ's movement. Gold. All right, gold's still hovering around that little yellow box we had right around that 4,000 mark. It's currently at $4,014. Just chopping sideways, not doing too much over the past 4 sessions. What we really need is a breakout, one way or the other. I think if you get a close above that 4,034 mark, you should see some more upside movement here. And I think if the market starts to sell off, that money will flow into gold here, which makes me bullish on gold from this point. And lastly, the 10-year. We talked about where it might rally back up to. That rallying point brought us up to right around 4.11 to 4.12 is kind of the beginning of that zone, and we tiptoed into that one today on a little spinning top type of pattern after a big impulse run and into a moving average. Typically, this is going to sell off. I would say typically because you got into an overhead supply, you got it hitting a downward trend line. It's overall downtrend as well. This does appear to be a point where I would expect that 10-year to drift lower. So if that does happen, you have upside movement for the equity market. So all kinds of conflicting signals here from these different market pieces, and that is going to do it for that. Now let me go to your earnings calendar, economic calendar. We did Palantir. Let me bring up Palantir. So Palantir came out with earnings today. As you can see at the bottom here, Palantir was supposed to make 16.8 cents. It came out at 21. Fine. They had a lot of volatility in the after-hours session. I'll go a 5-minute time frame here. You had a big spike up, and then it pretty much has given it all back, and then some. We're down in the after-hours session on Palantir, but at one point, from its closing price today, Palantir was up almost 7%, and now it's down 0.42. Gotta love earnings because of what? It's the popcorn trade of the day. Oh, boy, I know. You're like, leave it alone, Merlin. All right, let's go to your economic calendar for Tuesday. For Tuesday, see what we got cooking there. Remember, the government's still shut down, annoyingly, so you'll have some tentative stuff here. You do have the TIP economic optimism numbers coming out for the U.S., as well as the API Weekly statistical bulletin, but nothing here that's that important. If you're trading the Kiwi, unemployment rate coming out tomorrow evening. That's probably the most important part there. And then let me go and bring up the earnings calendar, which I did not have prepped for you and ready to go. Starts to get hotter in here. Earnings calendar for tomorrow. You have 388 companies reporting earnings. On that list, there are a couple big names. You've got, that's not today. Come on. That's today. 388 tomorrow. AMD is the big one. You have Shopify, you have Uber, Arista Networks, Amgen. Those are some of your biggies. Pfizer as well. And I heard someone talking about Uber today. I think that was Steve brought up Uber. Great day for Uber today. Maybe people leaked that earnings announcement. From a daily perspective, Uber running into some overhead problems. You've got basically what feels like an ascending triangle going on here in Uber. Right now in the after-hour session is up slightly to over $100 per share for Uber. Let's see where it trades at 6 p.m. on the open. Yep. All right, so that's it for me, everybody. I'm going to wrap this one up. I don't have any guests tomorrow, so we'll focus on what you guys would like to focus on. For those of you who did send in questions, Jeff, and there were two that sent in questions, Jeff and give you prop. Now, thank you for sending those questions. If you guys have stuff, let me know. There was a much more in-depth question that was supposed to remain anonymous, so I need to do some more research on that one, but I will gladly get to that one on tomorrow's show. So if you have questions, send them on to tradermerlin@gmail.com, and I will get to that for our Tuesday edition. Hope you guys have a fantastic remainder evening. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow.